Sandra all the time is here with the cold heart truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama. Call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Hello, this is Ralston Anglin, inviting you to my campaign launch rally on Saturday, March 15th at 6:30 p.m. at the Cayman Turtle Center's parking lot. Come out and join me for an evening of testimonials, plans for our future, light refreshment, and local entertainment. Remember, on April 30th, vote number 1, Ralston Raleigh Anglin for West Bay North.
Hey everyone, this is Alric Lindsay, your candidate for Georgetown South. Join me for a meeting on Thursday, March 13th, starting at 7 p.m. at the South Sound Community Center. Let's talk about planned developments in the South Sound Basin, crime, traffic, and other matters. See you there.
For the past 58 years, CUC has strived to be more than just an electricity provider. We have sought to be a foundational company. We give back to our community, and with the hard work and dedication of our employees, we have built and maintained one of the safest and most reliable electricity grids in the region. As we all look to the future, we at CUC want the Grand Cayman community to have confidence that our commitment to you will continue. Join us as we continue this journey together at empoweringcayman.com.
Great news, Cayman! Tim Hortons is finally open and ready to serve you. Start your day right with our delicious all-day breakfast, or grab a box of our famous Timbits and a dozen donuts for a sweet treat. Need a quick pick-me-up? Swing by our drive-thru for your favorite espresso drink anytime. We're open weekdays from 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the weekends, closing 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, with 2 entrances at the Shamrock Road Roundabout in Red Bay. It's time for Tim's.
I will be tuned in this election cycle to CMR Cayman Election Headquarters.
Cayman, get prepared for election 2025. CMR, your election headquarters, is ready to keep you informed with candidate features, debates, analysis, interviews, and honing in on the issues that matter the most. Don't miss a beat. Keep it locked to Cayman Marl Road for your complete election coverage.
Hey Cayman, this election season, I'll be tuned in to Cayman's election headquarters, CMR, who else? So let's get informed and let's vote smart. Bye!
All right. Good morning, Cayman. Happy Wednesday. Wow. Time going by quickly. How's everybody doing this beautiful Wednesday morning? So good to see you guys. Instagram, y'all look like you're slow to wake up this morning. Everybody okay? All right, we're going to send out the links in the channel. If you've not yet joined the YouTube channel, by all means, go and message us. We've got barcodes on the website and elsewhere. So, yes. Okay. All right, so let me just see here now. Okay. Let me get all these links for everyone. Everybody doing good? Let's do some roll call while we're waiting on our guests to join us. Media Warehouse, good morning. Irvelyn, good morning to you. Akil, so good to see you. Happy Wednesday. Wee Wee is in the house. Oh my God. Lord, America. I'm just doing a quick scan of the news, and I can tell you, whew, did you guys see, just as an aside, the United States of America have been added to a watchdog list? Yes, my dear, it's crazy, but they have been added to a watchdog list. But what a mess. Anywho, we'll talk about them another day. We got our own issues right now that we got to focus on. A very, very important election. But listen to this headline story, and then we'll move on quickly. It says here, a federal judge on Monday ordered the government downsizing team of DOGE, created by U.S. President Donald Trump and spearheaded by billionaire Elon Musk, to make public records concerning its operations, which he said had been run in unusual secrecy. Take that. If you're cleaning up the government and you claim that you're saving billions of dollars, why on earth should that be done in secrecy? So pretty interesting indeed. I mean, show us the money, show us the paper trail. It can't be that difficult. But of course, it's being done in secrecy because a lot of the things that they're claiming and that they're saying, they're saving billions of dollars, is completely false. I think it was a number of publications, but definitely NBC said, big swings, big misses. DOGE struggles to back up its outsized claims. And so they have been digging as much as they can about what they claim. And they said the results so far, 2 stunning strikeouts. They have completely missed the boat. And now they are firing educators. Like America needs to be any dumber. I mean, seriously, the world needs to focus on education and critical thinking. We don't need to fire the very people, the educators who are trying to help people think. Lord have mercy. What a hot conundrum that is. Anywho, moving on to Cayman news. Let me just say that we've got coming up for you today, TCCP. We were going to have Candidate Hour with Mr. Wayne Panton and Mr. Ozzy Bodden. And then in the second hour, we're going to actually have a feature interview. We're live on air, so we can't have side conversations this morning. Hello? Yeah, I'm already live, so. No. I'm pretty sure I said Hump Day Wednesday. Didn't I say Hump Day Wednesday? All right, folks, it's Wednesday. All righty. She was calling to see if this was a repeat. No, we don't do repeats like that. It is Wednesday. Did I not say Happy Hump Day Wednesday? I was thinking about it and I said, what day is today? Isn't it Wednesday? Did I say Tuesday? I must be going crazy. All right, folks. So no, it's a live show, live and direct. All right, so what do we got on tap for today? We've got Wayne Panton and Ozzy Bodden coming up first, and then we're going to do a video feature with Mr. Andre Ebanks, who is the leader of the TCCP. This person said, no, man, you said Wednesday. I thought so. Oh my gosh. All right. All right. I thought I said Wednesday. Good morning, good morning, good morning, morning. All right, yes. By the way, the chamber link for questions, thank you. An astute listener said, please, Miss Sandy, can you remember to send that out? Let me just get it. Mr. Will Panu did send it on Monday after the show. So they've got a QR code and then they've got a link. So let me put the link in the chat section first. So this is the Chamber's election survey, where you can submit questions to be used during the Chamber's candidate forums, which begin on March the 13th, which is tomorrow, Thursday, March the 13th. So participate, send in your questions. I mean, they said they've got like hundreds of questions already, which is pretty wild. So I suspect that, my goodness, if they've got that many questions, I don't know how many of your questions will actually get answered, but as we say, you won't know if you don't try. So submit your chamber questions and you should be off and running. All right. Okay. So let me just put it in the comment section here as well. Good morning to Miss Lucille. Blessed good morning to all of our students. We've got Pat. We've got Danielle. Thank you for joining us. Lavana is here, of course. Mr. Robert, our usual suspects. Doge. What a hot mess, Damien. They're claiming all sorts of stuff that just don't go so. Show us the paper trail. If you have nothing to hide, you need to show us the paper trail. Dee Dee said you did say happy Wednesday. Oh my goodness. All right. Miss Evelyn said, yes, you said Wednesday. I was wondering if I was going crazy. Good morning, Shani. How are you doing? All right, let's get this show on the road. I'm waiting for a guest to join us. I got someone asking me to call them. I will do my best. It's busy times right now. I am so busy. It is not even funny. So listen, a couple of days ago, we saw something about a government was circulating something, a message on like fake news. And a few of you sent it to me and you're like, why is government wasting time and energy on this? Like, you know, I think most of us are savvy enough, but apparently you're not, because we still get these fake news things being circulated. Now, the interesting thing about this is this happens all the time. We literally get fake news. I've seen them with the former premier, Sir Alden McLaughlin. I've seen it with the former premier, Juliana O'Connor-Conley. I've seen it with Nolly Brown. Like, these things circulate claiming that, oh, they've been arrested and this and that. And I mean, you guys should know by now that this stuff isn't true, and you just ignore it. You know, that this isn't even, I don't even know who's creating this stuff. I don't think it's anybody in Cayman. I think it's just clickbait. And these people want you to click on it for, I don't know what they get out of it, probably some scam at the end of the day, right? So I figured everyone at this point was savvy enough and smart enough to know that you don't click on these things and you just ignore them. You certainly don't share them. So when government started circulating a message earlier this week, I think the first one I got was on, was it Monday? And they said, pause, check, share. And so they did this whole social media messaging about being careful with fake news and whatever. And I was just like, all right, whatever. Clearly, government had a slow news day, was what I was thinking. What I didn't realize is that apparently Minister Bryan was being targeted this time around, and I guess he's asked them to address it. Are we not savvy enough to know that these things are fake when we see them? There's one that was like, oh, Sir Alden McLaughlin is one of the richest men in Cayman. No, he's not. He's not even anywhere near that. I'm sure he's comfortable. He's well comfortable, but one of the richest men in Cayman, child, please. So we get these types of things all the time. A lot of times they try to come off as legitimate. And so they target like the Compass, for example, and they'll like use their logo and stuff as well. I guess that's, one of the perils of being around for 60 years. And so once again, here we go. Here's another one that is being circulated around on social media. Listen, we can't do anything about this. This is not Caymanians, I don't believe, that are doing this. This is just idle people online. Now, here's the crazy thing about this one. That's not even Kenneth Bryan. I'm pretty sure, I mean, maybe whoever did this somewhere in Russia, they think, oh, we all look alike. But that don't look like Kenneth Bryan to me. That looks like some random dude wearing a yellow tie that they put a headline on the compass saying, the charges against Kenneth Bryan have been confirmed. Folks, this is fake news. It's clickbait. It's a lie. I saw one person share it, so it's obviously not getting a whole lot of traction. Just ignore it. So someone also sent a video yesterday saying that the Honorable Kenneth Bryan took to his social media to try to warn people about this clickbait. Just ignore it, folks. Stop clicking on it. Stop sharing it. It don't make no sense. Who was the one person who shared it? I don't even know. You know, when you come across these pages, this best gifts X whatever, and it's sponsored, go ahead and block that page. If you click next to their name, you can say block anything from this page. And the more you do that, the less traction they also get, which is a good thing. All right. So that ain't Kenneth Bryan. Not all people of color look the same. Oh my God. Damien says that's not even Kenny's body or dress style, right? They did not do a good job at all. So I don't know who that dude is. I don't know if that's a real person or not. I'm chuckling here because it looks funny. But yeah, that's not him. I've never seen Kenneth dress in that particular way. I guess they figure throw a yellow tie on him and you guys wouldn't even look at what else is there. What a mess. And then they've got two police officers. It does look like some sort of a official picture that they got from somewhere. And then they covered up the face of the police officers. Oh my gosh. Oh, these people are so crazy. And then look at the bottom. These are the telltale signs, okay? Down at the bottom, it says tranquilrhyme.pro. That's not something that a Compass story would have in it. And then it switches. It says, is this the end of his career? Question mark, exclamation point. No legit newspaper is going to do that type of text either. Then it goes into Spanish right after that. These are telltale signs that this foolishness is fake. So, don't click on it. Don't share it. Unfollow it, in fact, so that you don't see these ridiculousness. So I am now going to make sure that this page does not show up on my timeline anymore. And that's the best way to combat this sort of thing. So we didn't know what government was talking about when they sent it out, I must say. Sometimes maybe when they send out press releases, if they would just be specific, I guess they didn't want it to be like, oh, we're just doing it just because it's happening to Kenneth Bryan. So they did a more general one. And this page claims, when I look at the page here, it actually claims that it's out of Brazil. So when I go and look at the page, let me just show you guys real quick. It says it's out of Brazil, and that apparently, here it is. So it says that it's out of Brazil, only has 13 followers, 10 likes. And so now this is when you just need to unfollow and block this page. So let me show you guys how to block a page. It's super, super easy. This is obviously a fake page that they created in November. So all you have to do is go up to the top. You see those three little dots right there? Bam, bam, bam. Report page, block page, invite friends, and follow. You just click on block, and it says you won't see any of their posts. They won't be able to tag you, blah, blah, blah. Confirm, and kaboom, you're done. Let's keep it moving. All right. Y'all see how to block? It says you block them. Yep. Close it. Done. Now, if I refresh, look at that. I won't be able to see that page anymore. Goody, 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 goody. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's move on to more important things. We've got I was about to call him honorable. We've got Mr. Ozzy Bodden in the studio with us today. Good morning, Mr. Ozzy. How are you?
Good morning, Sandy. Good morning to our listeners and viewers. I'm honorable according to the
Oh,
rule that they
right,
made some
because
time back. Once you've been honorable, you're
you're
always
always on. Yeah,
honorable.
thanks to McKeeva Bush,
Yep.
because he knows nobody else would be calling him honorable at this stage of his career. So he had to change the rules.
Yeah, that's the rule.
What a mess. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We know that Mr. Wayne Panton is also going to be coming on, but you can hold your own. So we're going to get going because we got a lot of ground to cover this morning. And in fact, we've got questions for you that came in beforehand. So we've got some very, very astute listeners to the program. And, we have a number of them. Some of them are civil servants, and some of them just want to, think about it before each guest comes on, and then they've got specific questions for them. So these are some very, very well thought through questions. We may not get to all of them, to be honest, because quite a few, but we'll go through and see what we can touch on. And then I know that you also, Honorable on Ozzy Bodden, wanted to talk about housing as well. So we'll see how far we can get with your housing solutions and take advantage of some of that this morning too. So the first thing, let me just bring it up on the screen here. Give me one quick second. And good morning to everyone. Of course, phone lines are open 936-2626. If you have a burning question for Ozzy, please feel free to give him a call. And I'm sure he will be more than happy to field your questions. Now, you've got a meeting coming up as well, Ozzy. Is that tomorrow evening?
Tomorrow, what's today's Wednesday, right?
Yes, today's Wednesday.
Okay, so yeah, tomorrow, after a while, when you're in this business,
all the dates,
start to forget the days are blurring into each other, So yeah, tomorrow evening at Wilty, on Mr. Arnie Scott's residence, so straight into Wilty on the left, at the end of the street. We'll be there from 7 p.m. We usually get started around 7:30.
Beautiful. All right, some questions. Population growth and infrastructure. The Cayman Islands has experienced rapid population growth, with estimates indicating an increase from 71,432 in October of 2021 to 81,546 by December of 2022. This surge has placed significant pressure on infrastructure and public services. How do you propose to address these challenges, particularly in Bodden Town, to ensure sustainable development and maintain the quality of life for residents?
Okay. Thanks for that, Sandy, and thanks for the question posed by the individual. This is exactly the problem that we face in Cayman. The pressure on our infrastructure is quite great. When we look at the pace of growth, which the person asking the question has outlined, there's really no way that we could quite be ready for this growth. And therefore we find ourselves behind the 8 ball. We have to, and again, this is the whole issue of housing comes into this, because we are finding ourselves with extremely high prices in the housing market, in the rental market. We find ourselves where the traffic situation is simply unbearable, and this spate of growth has put pressure on our schools, on our hospitals, and just about everywhere that you look, we're suffering from this. So we have to look at the island in terms of a growth management plan. We really have to do that. We cannot sustain this pace of growth. We have to decide where. I think we need to sit down. Remember, we had Vision 2008 back in the day. I think we need to sit down and come up with another 20-year plan where we wish to see these islands go. In terms of Bodden Town, I think Bodden Town is ripe for some good development. Back in the day when I was elected 05 to 09 with Mr. Clifford and Mr. Eden under the PPM government, we had the Go East initiative. And what the Go East initiative was all about was developing the eastern districts so that everybody doesn't have to go to town to earn a living. And I believe that this needs to be fast-tracked in terms of more government services, more entrepreneurial activity, encouraging, giving them incentives to move in this direction, and find ways that people can survive in the eastern districts without having to go to Georgetown. So in a snapshot, we'll have to planning laws, the whole works will have to be looked at in total before we make any rash decisions. But we have to be able to accommodate this growth in a way that it's not stifling us. And right now, that's how it feels. It feels Caymanians in particular feel that they are just under the gun. They're not coming up for air. That this pace is leaving them behind. They are not benefiting from it. And everybody else that's coming here seems to be surviving and having a good standard of living. And some of them have no intention of staying in Cayman. They're here to grab the bucks they can and move on. Some are willing to come here and be a part of these islands and join hands with us and make these islands a better place. But it's a lot of things at this table that we have to sit and look at and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. We have some other questions that are coming in as well. So let's go ahead and go to another one. This is one person, so we're going to pick a few from them, and then we've got some other people that we're going to let get some questions as well. So let's talk about crime and public safety. Despite the Cayman Islands' reputation for low crime rates, there have been recent concerns, such as the mass shooting at the Ed Bush Field in West Bay in February of 2024. What strategies would you implement to enhance public safety and address the underlying issues contributing to such incidents?
This is a critical question. Crime is something that we've had, thank God, at a low level for all these years of development. Yes, we've had the 6 or 7 murders and the occasional rape and the robbery and burglary, but we are seeing an increase in the intensity and type of crime. We have to, first of all, start with border protection. We should have in place by now fingerprint software and facial recognition software for all visitors to these islands, in and out, in my opinion. It is well known. I'm a person, I have my ear to the ground, talk to a lot of people. I have people who tell me that we have hardened criminals that have run from other jurisdictions already in these islands. We have hardened criminals coming in by boat on a regular basis. We have to secure our borders. The police have to be given the tools to police the coastline. We need in my opinion, a marine station in the Brac or Little Cayman, because those 2 islands are out there on their own, and we have the marine base here. But it is a good distance for us to get there, right? So we need another station. We need to employ the use of drone technology. I think I've heard some rumors of that being worked on or maybe tested at this point, but it needs to be done. And once we feel that we have a secure border situation, then we can look internally, because hopefully then we can root out some of the bad elements that we have. We have our own homegrown that have become, sadly, gone in the wrong direction for various reasons. Some because of economic situations, some because, of course, drugs is lucrative and it's an easy way when they don't feel that they can make it in the job market. Goes back to the way we educate our young people and ensuring that they are not falling through the cracks. It's a common term, but it's a very valid term, because what happens, our education system sets us up to be academic successes. When we don't become an academic success, we tend to find that those kids fall through and they look for other ways to make a living when they look at their peers doing well at work. or in university or wherever. So we have to find a way to make sure, and I make no excuses about this, a trade school, a trade school, a trade school. I do not want to hear that we have a little bit of vocational studies in this school or that school or the university college. We need a full-blown trade school. And I believe at my last meeting in Norfolk, one of the guests raised a valid point when I had question and answer time. And she said, why don't we're all talking about this school that's being built in the BRAC, which is extremely, to me, over the top. And everybody feels that cost-wise, size-wise, the whole works. So we're going to have this building, which is already under construction. I guess we can't stop it now. It's going to be built. But why don't we take a part of that building and use that for this trade school that I've been talking about? I keep talking about the Heart Institute in Jamaica, which I know we could strike up a relationship with and have a chapter here and get these young people off the streets and into our trades, or very lucrative trades. You're talking about plumbing, carpentry, electricians, tilers, masons, the whole works. These people make a ton of money. Let's not be fooled. And we used to have our own, because remember now, we come from a history of seamanship. Our seamen came home, and they were all handymen. They were all there. We still have some in Bodden Town here, the old chief engineers and stuff that go around and do a little plumbing and a little electrical and this and that, because they learned this stuff through their sea career. Now that has died out because those folks are unfortunately leaving us. So we don't have my generation, sadly, which was at the bridge of the seamanship days. People before, a little older than me, went to sea. By the time we came along, we were headed to university or college. So we need to make sure that our young people are trained and able to hold their own. This will take a lot of people off the vulnerable list that go on to do things that end up putting them into a life of crime. They then can't get a job because they've been to prison, they have a criminal record, and the recidivism and everything starts and continues. And this is the cycle that we found ourselves in these islands. We have to break the cycle. Simple as that. We have to give our people a chance. And we're talking about the Caymanian Community Party. We're talking about putting Caymanians first. These are some of the things, the hard decisions that we have to make to ensure that our young people are striving and doing well, and jobs are opening up, and we can cut down on the number of work permits that we need in these islands.
All right, very good.
I hope that will answer the question. But,
yes. Let's pick one more from this specific to you, and then we're going to have some other questions that's come in from someone else. So number 5 says past conduct and leadership. In December of 2014, you were involved in a publicized incident where you verbally abused your chief officer, leading to a cabinet reshuffle. How have you addressed this behavior, and what steps have you taken to demonstrate your commitment to respectful and effective leadership since then?
Well, okay, this has been, I've addressed this so many times, but here we go one more time. This was 10 years ago, and I found myself in a situation which was a very uncomfortable situation personally, and I lost my cool. That I'm human, and that happens to any of us. I apologize to the person concerned. Me and that person speak well today. I don't see her a lot, but when we see each other, we're respectful, we're fine. We've both moved on from it. We learn from our mistakes. That would never happen to me again in such a scenario. There are situations in life that can push people to the point where they lose their cool. As I've matured, gotten older, of course, I've learned to control that a lot better. And I don't let people, I simply move on, and I'm not going to get in any confrontation like that. But it's one of those things that I regret, but I don't think it's the end of the world. as I said, I'm very respectful of females in particular. I come from a single mom who raised me with values to respect and to have integrity and to be honest in life. I know what it is to respect females, and I saw my mother disrespected, and I grew up having to defend her. So I know what it is when it comes to the dignity and honor of females. Nobody else can point out another situation where that has happened with me. It was a one-off, and I deeply regret it, but we have moved on. The apology was made on more than one occasion, and the apology was accepted. And me, as I said, that person, we're fine.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very, very much for that. All right. And to Ozzy's point, I mean, yes, I like the question about past conduct and leadership because I do think it's important. Ozzy, I always say personally that if there's no growth, that's where people need to be concerned. We're all human beings, as you rightfully said. Everybody knows here that we love to pop off. In fact, that's a trademark of this show. And another good reason why y'all can never convince me to be an MP, because at the end of the day, I enjoy it. Leave me alone. Leave me in my corner. But yes, we all have to grow and we all have to learn. And if you don't, from the different stages in your life, if you don't progress, that is where the true issue lies. So I'm glad to hear that you have definitely moved past that, because you have single-handedly created a buzzword, Driftwood and Cayman, that I don't think we'll ever get rid of. It's like me and Honey Child. Everywhere I go, from the youngest little kids that can barely walk, they're like, "Hi, Miss Honey Child." So I'm glad to see that you are remorseful and that you have apologized to that individual and that you have moved on in a positive way. All right.
So, the strange thing about that is a word that I've never ever used before in that context. The only driftwood I talked about was the driftwood in Northside, the bar, and I don't know where that came from that morning.
In that moment, yeah.
It came spontaneously, and it's, as you said, it's in the public domain now, and people use it for various reasons. But that was just something that I came out of nowhere that day, and I guess that's part of when you lose your cool, things come out.
Yeah. Well, YouTuber says every time I hear the word driftwood, I think of him. So, like I said, you've coined that phrase. I'm going to go ahead and invite Mr. Wayne Panton in, who is the former MP, I guess is technically correct, for the District of Newlands, and he's running for Newlands again. Wayne, I actually had a dream about you last night. Yes, I was showing you, let me tell you about this dream. Some people might want to play some numbers now. I'm just kidding. I was showing you how to use Amazon, because you were telling me, here's the dream. It was so bizarre. Here's the dream. You were talking to me about car parts, which would never happen because I don't know anything about car parts. But you're like, oh, I need to get a car part. And I said, well, Wayne, did you know that Amazon, my obsession with Amazon. I'm like, do you know that they sell car parts? And you couldn't believe it. And I said, yes. All you have to do is go in and put in the make and model of your vehicle, and it'll show you all these parts that are available, and they sell groceries. And you were so flabbergasted. And then in another part, apparently you were in my head quite a bit last night. Another part of the dream, we were actually helping to fundraise for a lady who was having some issues with her land. And so we were having like a food fundraising event, cooking food and selling food to try to help her out. So there you go. I said when I woke up this morning, oh my gosh, I've got to tell Wayne that he finally made it in my dreams. And it wasn't a nightmare, which is a good thing.
Right. Yeah, and it had to have something to do with Amazon too, right?
Right, exactly. And food, go figure. Yeah. All right, so at least we were being charitable and part of the dream. So, All right, so we've got some other questions. And Wayne, I'm sure that the listeners will be sending questions specific to you as well. So we've just been asking Ozzy a few. And then I know that you guys wanted to touch on housing a little bit. And one of the questions actually comes to housing. So this is a good opportunity to discuss that. And folks, at about 20 minutes to 9, we're going to go ahead and break with them so that we can do our feature interview or candidate feature with Mr. Andre Ebanks. So the next set of questions that we've got, this one says, good morning, Aunt Sandy. I have 2 questions for Ozzy, the Honorable Ozzy. Number 1, Caymanian ownership initiatives. What initiatives is the government considering when they say the government, I'm sure they mean the TCCP if you become the government, considering to support Caymanians in achieving home ownership amidst the housing crises, particularly in terms of financial assistance or favorable lending practices. So two very, very specific things here: financial assistance or favorable lending practices. And Mr. Wayne Panton, if you want to jump in on any of this, feel free to do so as well.
Thanks, Sandy. I'll let Wayne jump in, but immediately, I know he'll say the same as I would say. One of the things at the top of the pile is to reintroduce what we used to call the GGHAM, which was the government guaranteed assistance mortgage, and that allows young people to get a home through the banks because it gives them the opportunity to the fearful deposit that the banks require for a mortgage, and it covers that, and then they're able to move on from that and get the mortgage in place. The problem is that with the high value of property now, these mortgages are way more than when we had the GGHAM. So this is also a problem because you have extremely high monthly payments now simply because you have a much higher mortgage. But some sort of guaranteed assistance scheme is one of the first things that we have to put in place. And of course, raising the price ceiling of properties eligible for stamp duty waiver as well. So those two things I would throw, and I'll let Wayne jump in because I've been talking a bit.
All right.
Yeah. Morning, Sandra. Morning, Oz.
And good morning, Wayne.
Good morning to all of your wonderful listeners and viewers. Yeah, this is an issue that is very important to the country, very important to us as a party, and it is very important to all of our our voters and the people that we have had. Certainly, I have had the privilege of representing. So one of the issues that I have had is, and I'll come back to the GGHAM thing and others, but just for a moment, one of the issues I have had is, which has been very frustrating for me over the 4-year period, is the numbers of people that have been applying under the National Housing Development Trust just keeps going up. And I remember, say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you heard numbers of around 400 who were on this list for waiting for housing. And if you ask anybody at the NHDT today or anybody in the ministry, you start getting numbers, like around 800 on this list. So while we have done some houses and we have been making some progress, we aren't making nearly enough progress. So these numbers keep going up, and these are questions that I get regularly from constituents on, how do we get on the list, and what's the chance that we're going to get the opportunity to purchase some of these houses. The reality is this list is growing so fast. We are going to have to escalate the number of homes that we are building. So in my view, in the past, we talked about building 100 homes a year. The reality is I think that's going to have to go up to something like 200, maybe 250 at a minimum. And that is just something that we're going to have to put the resources behind, because people are not getting the opportunity. We're not building them fast enough. We've had places like Apple Blossom in West Bay, for example. And I don't think people are particularly concerned about where they are. They just want those opportunities somewhere in the country. Apple Blossom was one of those places that, that I had certainly been pushing the minister, and I know our colleague Catherine Ebanks Wilkes for West Bay Central was pushing constantly on that to try to get that area. And I think, just for clarity, that was one of the original areas that had some of the metal housing from probably 20 years ago that that just wasn't adequate, and we had a lot of issues with that, deteriorating buildings and whatnot. So those areas should have been redeveloped. It is in process, I think, but we just have not been moving anywhere near fast enough. And we're going to have to replace some of those houses at some sort of concessionary position. We may even have to replace some of them free of cost. But we also have some issues where we're not building, we're not utilizing the space well enough. We need to have some multi-level homes as well. There are Caymanians who don't necessarily want a home and a garden. They don't necessarily want to have the mow around their house. They want a home that they can live in, that they can call their own, and they're perfectly happy to have multi-level. And that gives us the opportunity to increase the density. That is one of the things that we need to be looking at in terms of increasing the density in residential areas, so that we can have more people who have the opportunity to have home ownership without necessarily having to invest so much in the property value itself. So those are some of the initiatives that we need to be pushing very hard, and it's something that I get asked about constantly. I just about every time I go to a supermarket, or I run into someone on the street, it's either questions about cost of living or it's questions about home ownership. We have had the opportunity over the last 4 years to deal with residential mortgage reform. There are people who are concerned about the issue, some perceived issues and issues that are clearly demonstrated in relation to what we would typically call foreclosure issues, which could have been addressed very significantly by residential mortgage reform. It would have implemented these protocols that you utilized when you're entering into a mortgage, and they would also, a separate protocol would arise if there's an issue with someone being able to, like perhaps running into problems, starting to be late on their payments and that sort of thing. And it requires the banks to engage fully and give the homeowners opportunities to address with the greatest amount of sort of effectiveness the issues. That should have been done, but the minister, who is the current premier, just simply did not appear to be interested in getting that done. It was a particular point of frustration for me. We also have a situation where half of the residential properties in Cayman are rental properties. And let's not fool ourselves. Some of our Caymanians have to rent. They are not yet in a position where they can, where they can purchase, and that makes sense for some people. But we have some serious difficulties in the rental market area as well. We have standards that are very low in some cases.
Yeah.
We also have very high rental rates being charged. Sometimes those high rental rates come with very poor standards. So we need to have a landlord and tenant sort of reform to make sure that we are, putting in place provisions which require landlords to at least meet a certain minimum standard. It is it is atrocious, and honestly, it's heartbreaking at times when you see some of the places that are being rented. And that's another area that draft legislation was being worked on, and I swear it must be 2 years in the working. I've never seen some of this legislation take so long. Again, it was with the current premier, And I don't know why it has not been dealt with. But those are areas that I think need to be addressed, and those are priority areas that need to be put in place, just as sort of minimum legislative standards to ensure that we have appropriate housing standards in relation to rentals. And as I said earlier, the provisions around residential mortgage reform, where people are entering into mortgages, you have much more clarity and understanding, and you also have a particular protocol to deal with scenarios where people may get into some difficulties, and they get much more assistance rather than just entering into this drawn out situation where some banks might let's say where the standards between the banks vary as to how much they engage and how helpful they are to homeowners.
The thing is,
So yes.
the thing is, on some of this substandard properties that Rena has talked about, to hear that the amount of rent that's being charged for those is quite crazy. And there has to be, I don't know, but we need to introduce some sort of rental commission to look into the whole scenario of rental properties, because there is a lot of abuse being taken, and these rents that are being paid could in some cases could fund a mortgage, and therefore people are pouring money into rent that they'll never be of any use to them, when they could in fact be paying towards something that they will own and something decent. So we have to look at when we build the government schemes going forward. We have to look at the lot sizes, the type of properties we're building. We don't want to create a tenement yard type scenario where we just pile people up on top of one another, and then you end up with another problem. But we want to have individual, Caymanians love their little homes with their little yard where they can grow their crops and come out in the evenings and enjoy. We want those type of developments, but they can be at a smaller scale and hopefully more affordable. We have to sit down with the banks on this whole thing and figure it out, because we cannot continue to I mean, some of the places that people are living in Cayman, the word is deplorable. And the rent that is being charged for them is phenomenal.
And can I ask a question, Ozzy? I mean, and Taween as well, we've often talked about on this program the need for some sort of a rental board to ensure compliance with some minimum standards. I mean, it's not the right word that you use is indeed deplorable, because we've seen right here in this program where people have called in and they're living in, roach infested housing. They've got sewage coming out of the ground right by their front door. Like, I don't even know how planning is allowing this to happen, because it's health and safety potentially at risk as well. It's not about, I don't have the fanciest things in my apartment. But let me now talk about the government homes and the government schemes, because I wonder if either of you have any thoughts on this in terms of the quality of those houses. Because when government undertakes to provide housing to, people who fall into a particular financial category, I don't even know if I like low income housing term, but that's what they call it. If we're giving them substandard housing as well, how on earth is that going to help them? Just last week, I've had people from the newest development there in West Bay reaching out to me saying, Sandy, can you please come and have a look at the facilities here, these that are brand new and that were just built, that have all sorts of issues, plumbing issues, electrical issues. Like, they haven't even been in there. They literally just moved in this year and stuff is already falling apart. And they're told, you only have 6 months or a couple months in which to, I don't even know if it's a full 6 months, but a couple months in which to find these defects and to report it. So we're providing low quality housing to our own Caymanians, and falling apart within the first couple months. and then knowing that there are defects and that they have to find money to either fix and repair it. If they don't find it by a particular date, then it's SOS, kind of on your own type of a situation. So I know for a fact that there are some people, and I'm going to call his name because he's been featured on this program, for building substandard housing for people who are paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mr. Philip Hides, and is it Hides? Yes. And he was one of the contractors that they used. So what would your government, Ween and Ozzy, do to ensure that we're getting better quality housing, especially under the government scheme, since government is responsible for engaging those contractors? There seems to be some degree of nepotism. I don't know if it's on the side of the National Housing Trust and how they're picking these people, but they're not picking people that have good quality reputations in the construction industry. And then that's putting those homeowners at a significant risk. And they don't have money, that extra money and extra savings to be spending on home repairs.
Sandy, I'll let Wayne wrap up because he's sitting at, well, he was a sitting MP until recently, and he knows a lot more detail than I do from the outside. But what I'd like to say to start this answer is that this goes back to the whole idea of the contractors law, which we put in place, or act now, I guess, we put in place when we were in government, when I was last in government. I don't know whether we have simply discarded that, but a lot of work went into agreeing and sitting with the Contractors Association to come up with something that was amenable to them and us in terms of standards. This is very upsetting to hear that we, the government, are building homes for people that are not fit for purpose, because we're only setting them up for failure. They're already struggling to get a home. Then you're going to give them a home that they're going to have to be fixing within the first year. That doesn't make sense to me. So we have to make sure that we look at this in totality. We do not look at it in silo. We have to make sure that we pre-approve these contractors. They meet certain standards. I happen to be a part under Mr. Ebanks, or leader Andre Ebanks. I was appointed before I joined the HSA as chair. I was appointed to the housing, what was it called, assistance committee, I think was the name that he set up. What that committee was doing at the time was going around and assisting with repairs to people's properties. Did a lot in West Bay, did a lot in East End, and did a bit in town and Borden Town, not that much in Northside. But the committee that was set up for that, what we used to do, the way we handled that, we had a list of contractors, and they were all pre-approved, and then we shared the work amongst them. So I would think that when it comes to building homes, something similar should be done. It shouldn't be any favoritism or nepotism or anything like that. It should be on merit. It should be that they've met the criteria. These people build quality homes, and it makes sense to spend an extra $20,000 or whatever to make sure that the place is in good order, rather than setting someone up for failure. So I'll stop at that point and ask Wayne to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about consistent standards, right? I'm very sorry to hear if there are problems with some of the newer NHDT housing stock that's being built. But at the end of the day, I think we need to do a better job with vetting the builders, ensuring that not only do they have a good reputation for delivering quality products at a procurement stage, but also continuing to vet them, look at the products that they're delivering, and see what kind of issues you've had, and whether they're meeting acceptable standards. The truth is, sometimes we have people that have good reputations, and then in order to do certain work, they bring in they bring in other people.
Yeah, because they're underbidding on these
Well,
projects.
sometimes it may be that, and we have this very unfortunate thing that goes on in the construction industry, where it seems that there are people that have lots of work permits for those that they don't really have the work for, and then they end up having a business which is partially about subletting labor, selling, renting out labor. And you get people of different standards getting involved in projects and perhaps being given too much leeway and delivering products that are, that have problems. But to me, fundamentally, it has to be also about planning, having a good set of good quality inspectors who are able to respond and address a lot of these issues as we're moving along. We really shouldn't be having people who are buying affordable homes and as I said, discovering that they have problems immediately or down the road. I mean, I can't see how that they could be in a situation where they have to find the problems or they lose any rates in 6 months. That I don't care what kind of documentation you bring along. If there is
legally,
if there is a latent defect in the product and you can't reasonably discover it for a period of time, it could be several years, it could be more than that. You can't get out of your liability if it is caused by some negligence. So I don't see how that they could be find it or lose the rate within 6 months time. But the point is we need to make sure that we don't have these issues that arise.
Exactly.
We need to have quality builders. We need to have frequent quality inspections so that people who are receiving these homes don't have these problems. And as I said, they're the very people that you don't want to have suffer problems.
Exactly.
Because they're already in a situation where they can't afford that kind of thing, and it's grossly unfair to do that. So I think we have to ensure that we have a combination of things. Make sure that the vetting is good. Make sure that you continue to review the work being done, and to have proper frequent quality inspections by planning. I mean, most of the when I was in government, I would say the majority of the complaints that I received were from people complaining about planning, about timing around inspections, and I know that there have been difficulties with with retention. We've had loss of staff in some cases, and I know the director of planning was sort of struggling to try to improve that. But that's a challenge that we have to meet. We absolutely have to meet it. We have to put the resources behind it to make sure that we can do that.
Yeah.
And I think, Sandy,
yes,
if you don't mind, I think the fact we should have a template. I mean, it shouldn't be that this contractor bills one way and the other one bills the next. I would imagine that there's a template, and these homes should be they should be of a high quality. I mean, we all know the onerous regulations that planning can impose when they're ready. They make life very difficult for somebody building the average home at times, and the complaints, and they drive up the cost because of the amount of inspections and all this. So how can planning, our own government department, we have a government scheme, how can planning not pick up on any defaults that's going on, that's going on there? So something is wrong. I don't know whether that's deliberate, that they turn a blind eye, but that needs to be sorted. And these homes should be not only fit for purpose, but they should be very energy efficient, because at the end of the day, we have to look at this globally. We have to look at, what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to drive down costs and make these people have a better life. And if you can you build for them more energy efficient, their CUC bill and everything is going to be less. They're going to be able to survive. I would think they should also be hurricane shuttered, so, and make sure that their roofs are in great order, that they're not going to lift off with a slight breeze. But they should be shuttered. That again, less damage, less bill back costs. All of this needs to go into affordable housing. And I don't know, but it seems as if hearing what you said about these homes that were built recently, that's a bit concerning, and we have to ensure that that doesn't continue.
All right. So let me tell you, I was just speaking to a young lady. I was having her remind me of some of the issues that she's having. So she said, yes, 6 months and we're already halfway through that. And her home's still needs major fixing. Walls are cracking, tubs are leaking, toilet seems cheap when you flush the whole thing. The lever falls off. My question is, and I don't necessarily need you to answer this, but just to put this in the back of your minds for future reference, is if you have contractors that are known in the community to be building defective homes and having issues, right? Why, number one, does planning not have a system where those individuals are not on some sort of a scorecard where they're demoted to the point where you can't be a general contractor anymore? You can't be out there building homes for people when we've had 4 or 5 reports of you know, not leveling floors, walls are leaking, windows are leaking, and all this sort of thing. There has to be some sort of reporting mechanism and scheme to consumers, because right now the only option that the average consumer has when they purchase a home that has defects is to take that person to court. A lot of people don't have the necessary resources to be able to do that. So why not have a quality control option built into what planning does, where a person can, with evidence, of course, provide evidence of bad workmanship, bad, you know, contractors' habits. Some contractors are literally out there stealing from people, stealing from Caymanians who do not have the resources to have that happen, and they get away with it because those people then don't have the money to go to a lawyer. And they've been contacting me asking for CMR to help them. And I think that that's an egregious and unfortunate situation. And maybe planning can have some sort of a scoring system where they say, you know what, because we've now had 5 complaints against you, you know, you're not going to be approved to go out there and build another house. We need to see some sort of improvement, I think, in that particular area. It's very, very concerning. Now, we do have a caller waiting on the line, but let me just ask you this, Wayne, because of course there's a lot of things floating around about candidates, and I want to give all the candidates coming on the program an opportunity to answer forthright some of the misinformation or information that's out there about them. So YouTuber 2025 says, isn't Wayne a landlord? The conflicts of interest in government is really something. Same thing with John. He won't raise minimum wage because of the impact it'll have in his security company. So Wayne, are you a landlord?
No, I am not. You know, that I keep getting calls up until recently asking me about why I'm treating Caymanians badly and not being willing to rent to certain people and whatnot at some property in town that I supposedly own because it has a Panther name on it. I don't have anything to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. I tell you what, if I had $1 for every call I've had in relation to that, I could help a lot of people today with their financial needs. It is ridiculous. I have no conflict of interest. I am not a landlord. So that answers that.
All right. So
I can't speak to anybody else with issues around minimum wage. You know, it is frustrating that we put so much effort into addressing situations like that, and then we just simply put it on the back burner because it seems like somebody it's inconvenient for somebody. I mentioned the issues around the residential mortgage reform, the landlord and tenant stuff that was being done. Why any of that hasn't been dealt with is open to speculation, but it is frustrating that it has not been done. To be frank, we have got to be, as leaders, people who have the courage to do the right thing.
Amen.
Sometimes the right thing is not easy, and God knows, I know I've had to deal with that in my political life. All through my political life, you have to be prepared and have the courage to do the right thing, irrespective of what kind of personal cost it is for you. But no, I have no conflict on any of this stuff, and I am speaking very bluntly about the needs to get these things done. And I'm telling you where some of the problems have arisen and why people, or the people who have not, who seem to have impeded it, I have no explanation as to why, but it has to be done. Even if I was a landlord, I would be advocating for good standards, because we all know, I mean, I look at these things and I think, is this what I would want my family member to be living in? Is this what I would want my family member to be buying? And, you know, you don't have to get very creative about the standards. You can just look at basic things like that. Would I be happy about this? And if the answer is no, then you have to be able to do something about it.
All right, Wayne and Ozzy, are you guys okay continuing to go a little bit longer? I know we have the video to play, but we're getting such wonderful engagement this morning with close to 530 people on the live stream. Yeah. This person says, good morning, please keep me anonymous and my number private. They gave some homeowners 6 months warranty. I only got 3 months. I was told that they're aware of the problems, but now trying to run from paying to fix them. So that's another person in the homes there in West Bay. Caller, good morning. A quick question or comment for our guest this morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
ma'am. Good morning, Ozzy and Mr. Panton.
Good morning.
Hi. 2 things I want to touch on. Rent. I believe we should rent, and we should have some way quality to rent to others if we rent it. Yeah, so I agree with that 100%, because people are human beings and you should have the place. But a problem that is causing higher rent. I've owned my places for over 20 years, and I've had people there for 10 years that I had raised the rent till in recent years, this last year. My insurance, and I don't know how and where they could tackle it, because I know it's a trickle down from America or different places. My insurance went from $17,000 to $34,000. Wow. That was double. So it's sometimes it's not just one thing. I had no choice, and I'm still having to raise, but I raise it that at least my rent can be covered by my mortgage, because otherwise it makes no sense. I, for one, won't just live over my rentals. I have other things, but if somebody's doing that for a business, then it's hard. So my rent is covered, basically covering my mortgage right now. And some people do that for income. So what happens? I don't know. So it's a trickle down for many things. We're rental, especially if you're doing it the right way. You're upkeeping your place, you're spending so much per year to service your AC, road services, and all of that. It's hard. So it might look like the rent went up. And I had to explain to my tenant. And when one said, you put on 100, I said, how long have you been there? 5 years? I said, I have to. I don't have a choice. And I said, you know, somebody will be willing to pay your price, because what I see them renting for out there, you're paying nearly half of that, you know, and so forth. But it's an issue. And it's not just raising your rent. So I have that on hand. I deal with that. On another note, we have something called bonfire, for those that know. I'm sure Mr. We know, Ozzy know, and for the listening public that don't know, it is actually a government way of saying put in your contracts, and the best bidder will be chosen. I know for a fact that sometimes they withdraw it and they split it up, because it's a certain amount, like $250. You don't need the approval of bonfire from government. And they take it and they withdraw it, and they decide to give their friend below the threshold. So you find, if you go and you research it, you'll find that same person got basically the whole contract, but in segments. So dishonesty will always be in any nation, but we have to, in such a small place, I think it's much easier to eliminate some of it. Because the problem is this: we got to choose who we put on boards, not just because, oh, this person supported me. No, choose who you're putting on a board, that they're fair and so forth. Okay. So what happens a lot of times with these things is that when they got the people there, the people that's working with them in that department. Yeah. And when they're working with them in that department and something come up, they know before it even come out. Yeah. So the problem is you got to look internally too, because there's no way that all of these homes should be having the same issue, and you're having a government inspector not private, a government inspector going out there, checking everything, and then 6 months. It's this problem. So actually, you got to check the inspector that they're doing their job and they're not a part of these construction companies, because many of them and many people, they're telling you to be transparent. They're seeing people that criticizing you, but they're not transparent. They're in a company and they're not in a company. And they're with the people, they're not with the people. So we have a lot of this. So these things are being bypassed. And who's it passed down to? The poor people that has to put that back. They don't want the bank or whoever to seize their home. That's unfair. They were struggling already. And that's why I've had people say they rather rent. I've had people that rent for me and say they rather rent than to buy a home, because most of the time what you're not getting anything, and the landlord will have the headaches when they rent.
Yeah.
So this is not where the young people should be in this Cayman Islands, right? I see so many foreigners come there and they got 10 houses, right? Living rich. And we got our poor little Caymanians there working and can't even get 1 2x4.
All right, thank you, caller.
Okay, and thank you for having me, but it needs to stop.
Appreciate
it. All right, sweetie. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much.
I'd like to thank the caller, and something that she alluded to there is something that's very concerning, and it's well known that there is an incestuous relationship oftentimes in the civil service, and that's something that we have to address. We have to root that out. It cannot be allowed to continue. We should be, if we are the government, saying to the community, look, you have to be ethical, you have to be fair. If we can't get our own house in order, who are we to tell them to do that? We have to sort that stuff out.
Yeah, I'd like to thank her as well.
I love Ozzy one more time. My apologies, Wayne.
All right, Ozzy, getting the boom.
Sorry, I cut off your thought process. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying, I was just joining Ozzy and thanking the caller, because clearly she's a conscientious person, seeks to do the right thing. And the reality is costs are going up. We're facing challenges all over the place. And we all know what's happening with the insurance market. The reinsurance market is getting tighter and tighter because of challenges all over the world, driven by climate change, but also locally driven by property value increases. And the amount of the amount that it costs to build things these days to replace existing properties. So that is clearly a cost driver. We can't deny that. But the issue that we're talking about really is standards that people are first of all low standards. Second of all, because costs are increasing. People are taking the opportunity to jack up rentals at every chance they get. I've had so many people come and tell me they've had 3 rent increases in 1 year. Well, you pay for your insurance on a yearly basis generally. So I don't know that there are a lot of drivers. Certainly, we don't have interest rate increases going on. I don't know that there are a lot of drivers that should require that kind of rental increase frequency. But at the end of the day, Sandra, there's so many things that can be done around this, and that we should have been doing. I mean, just give you an example. Back in October 2023, you'll recall that the whole move against me was going on for some time prior to that, but it culminated with this this big motion of no confidence in 2023. But prior to that, we had spent just about 9 or 10 months with an interministerial task force that I had set up, looking at housing issues, to get the best of knowledge across the civil service, input it into, how recommendations as to how we can move the housing issue forward, both in terms of the rental side, but also in terms of affordable homes, or any homes that people, Caymanians could get access to. We came up with 27 recommendations in relation to that. That was taken to cabinet. That was and it was accepted by cabinet. And of course, it was just before I departed, with a little help from both the PPM and certain members of the current government, because I was the rock in the river and preventing other things from happening, they said. I consider it, I was preventing the wrong things from happening. Certainly wasn't some of the right things. But anyway, this is a great example. Nothing has been done with those 27 recommendations. That was the work product of the entire civil service, the best of the knowledge across the civil service as to how we can start accelerating housing and addressing some of these problems so that our people would have greater opportunity. And we're not getting it done because none of these things were implemented. Nothing has been implemented. There's a failure of integrity, a failure of leadership, and enough is enough. This is the problem that we have had. This is why people are frustrated. This is why our four colleagues, left government. They turned their back and walked away on a matter of principle. They're not quitters. They're patriots. They stood up against this nonsense and they said, better must be done for this country. So, there's only so long you can put up with it.
All right, we do have a caller, and then we do have other questions and comments coming in as well. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Mr. Pantana and Mr. Ozzy. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sandy, I haven't been on a little while because I've been busy, but since Windsor Park has been mentioned in this comment this morning, I've lived in Windsor Park. My parents had for over 43 years. And I'm telling you, it's appalling to see because a lot of people have either rented their homes and moved out to different districts. And what has happened, and I've been complaining about this for years, especially the place across the street from me, that was a 3 or 4 bedroom home when it was first owned by the original owners. It now turned into a 14 bedroom individual little rooms that are now rented in that one place. Yeah. So if we're going to work on changing laws and stuff, I think that if people are going to turn their homes into apartment buildings or complexes, they need to register it no longer as a residential home, but a rental.
Very good.
Because this is the issue we have. And we have problems down in Windsor Park with roaches, unclean yards. Right now, I'm going through the same thing with the lady 2 houses down from me. The place is disgusting. People are complaining about the roaches and the scorpions. All she ever do is show up for rent at the end of the month. The extortionate rents that are being charged for what people are living in are disgusting. I have apartments, as you know, Sandra. My yard and my apartments are always kept. I make sure fire extinguishers are there, fire alarms, everything that would make my tenants secure in living there. A lot of these places around here, if a fire broke out, they have nothing in place to protect their tenants. All they care about is the money, and it needs to stop. The other day, somebody built on top of their cesspool a room and rented it.
Wow.
So it's a serious situation where planning needs to be more active. And when people make reports, they have to listen. Because and another thing I know immigration is a huge thing that everybody talks about. But when we start importing people from poverty countries to come in that cannot work on $6 an hour or $4 an hour, that they have to pool 20 people to one house, that also creates a problem.
Exactly.
Kaboom!
It is a lot, and I see it right down in my district because parking is a nightmare.
Yeah. And someone says, to your point, Noli, this person says, please give Noli a kaboom. I'm experiencing the same thing. And all the cars are parked on the roadside, which of course is government property. It means that emergency vehicles can't get in there. It's just a mess.
It is terrible, Sonny. Let me tell you, it is bad.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, if right now, Windsor Park is still developing, they've got big structures going up, big apartments, complexes going in. Where these people are going to park? It's a nightmare, sir. So you guys,
and let me say this, Noel, in terms of health and safety, one of the concerns that I've always had is you may have a home that was approved for occupancy of 4 or 5 people. When you turn that into a tenement yard, we saw some people the other day calling in complaining about another property in Windsor Park that is well known for not having very decent standards. They even took a living room space and made that into a rental room. and sectioned it off, and now they have an AC unit running inside of the living room space, which I don't even know how that's possible. But you might have 20, 30 people living in a space that was only approved for 4 to 5, maybe 6 people at the most.
Yeah.
That also creates other risk and hazards.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid there's ever a major fire that breaks out in Windsor Park. The fire service, the police, all these emergency agencies are not even going to know how many people are actually living
Absolutely.
and how many people they need to get to potentially rescue.
Yep.
So the whole system, I think, needs some revamping.
Serious revamping.
Yeah, thank you so
much.
The most annoying thing, Sandy, is that I called a meeting with DEH, NRA, Minister J, all of those to discuss things that were happening in the Windsor Park area. Honorable Minister of Health, Sabrina Turner, didn't even respond to my email, nor did she even bother to show up. So it's things that get you annoyed, that you go after them about, and then they get upset and all drawn up in their feelings. But if you reach out to them pertaining things that are going on like this, that can affect the community health-wise, and they don't even bother as a government, where do we go from there? You know how many complaints has been made to planning about various things down in here, and nothing is being done.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sandy.
Some serious concerns. And I hope that all candidates are taking note of these, because the people want solutions. Here's another person thinking that they would have had.
Just before you go on, if you don't mind, I'd like to thank Noel. I haven't seen you in a while, bro, but you've become an unelected MP down in that area, so keep up the good works. But he addressed so many of the issues that are facing us, and it's not just in Windsor Park.
Yes.
We have, I don't know, we somehow or the other we've turned a blind eye to it in our haste to develop and our haste for some people to make money. We have turned a blind eye to what is going on in our communities.
Yes.
And our communities are becoming litter loaded. Housing is a disaster. As he said, 14, 15 people, 20 people living in a house that was, built for 4 bedrooms, 4 family members or whatever. We have to take a serious look. And the TCCP, I told Wayne and Andre from day one when I got involved, if we're not going to make hard decisions as a government, then it's no use me leaving home. This next government of the Cayman Islands, come May 1st, has to be prepared to take hard decisions. They're not going to be popular, some of them, but you're going to have to accept that we have to turn the ship around, because our people, we think that we're doing okay, but our people are suffering, and they're suffering from a quality of life perspective. They're suffering from economic perspective. And if you think it's bad now, watch what's going on in the US. If you think those tariffs, if they continue on the trend that they're going to drive up the cost of living there, if you think that's not going to affect the Cayman Islands, then you have another guest coming. So we're talking about contractors cutting corners. You're not seeing that yet.
Wow.
You're talking about people can't afford this and that. You can't buy eggs. You can't buy this. You're not seeing that yet. Now, I don't want to be preaching doom and gloom, because I believe there is hope, and that's why I'm running. And I know that my government feels the same. You need a government that's going to be brave. They're going to be honest, and they're going to be committed to the task at hand. And the TCCP is willing, with the experience that we have and the young talent that we brought on board. And as we continue to grow and absorb more, I think that we are the best positioned group at the moment to tackle this. And I say that unashamedly. But this is not going to be an easy job. We are going to make some people unhappy. But you know what? You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much, Ozzy. So let's continue to look at some questions. This one says, yes, same with Prospect Drive. Some people are turning their homes into apartment buildings with 20 people living in one house. and fishermen living on boats on empty lots, litter all over the empty lots, and doing business on that empty lot, running generators all night. Again, where is planning? I mean, I won't put up a little fence and planning breathing down my neck. Where is the planning department? We have showed examples here on this program, and not to pick on planning this morning, but they have a lot of questions that they need to be answering, where in their own computer system, we've shown the screenshots where Mr. Pandui, the head of planning, it showed that he signed off on a wall that Mr. Philip Hides had built that was crooked. The inspector wouldn't sign off on it because it was crooked. He said, you need to fix this. And, a couple weeks later, all of a sudden it's signed off on by Mr. Pandui in the system, and the wall was never fixed. So who went and checked the wall? We have an apartment complex that we reported on. Planning had to condemn. It basically was disintegrating. A brand new apartment complex is falling apart because it does not have sufficient steel in the buildings. We show the pictures. We show the planning had condemned it. A single mother with several children who was able to get a mortgage from the bank now has to go out there. And by the way, she's a civil servant. Now has to go out there, find money for a rental apartment, plus still pay a mortgage for a house that apartment she can't even have, because the construction of that unit was so poor that it literally had to be condemned by planning. So we've got some more questions here. And of course, one of the things that we want to do is dispel any and all rumors. So this one is for you, Ozzy. Anthony Russell says Ozzy is another big landlord in Bodden Town. He has a large apartment project coming online too. Ozzy, you got a large apartment complex coming online?
Well, I wish I did. I own 2 homes across from my business, and one is my old homestead, and I have 2 workers that live in that. The lady that's been with me forever at Great Tree Cafe, and my sister-in-law. And then the yellow house is a home that was owned by the Foster family, and we bought that back in 2005, and we bought it primarily to keep our workers in. But I maintain both of those properties very proudly. I maintain them as if I live there, because I'm a person. That's how I am. If I'm going to sell you food, it's something that I will eat, and if I'm going to ask you to stay somewhere, it's somewhere I would stay. So I'm very proud that I don't have a nest of people. I don't have a tenement yard. I have a nice 2 nice homes that facilitate our business across the road. And I'm not a land baron nor an apartment baron. I think that the person may be making a mistake about a property that my daughter invested in recently, and it's an old family property, and I'm happy to see that she was able to acquire it through her blood, sweat, and tears with her partner, and they've gone through the bank, and they have a very, very high mortgage, and they're gonna put some. They've already. It's pretty much complete. They have about 7 or 9 rooms, and it's all done at a very high. Anybody feel free to walk in there. Those rooms are anyone. I'd be happy to move in there right now to a very high standard, and that's how we do things. We're gonna make sure that people are comfortable. We're not looking to have a mass of people living anywhere. We do have to create employment for people who are not employment, accommodation for people who are here. That's a given, but it should be that, and we screen them before. I know that she's screening them before they go in there. And the same thing, my son bought one next door, another old family property. So we've reclaimed two of the Bodden properties, and I'm very, very proud of that, to see my kids playing their part in the community and trying to, these were both becoming quite shabby. One was closed, the other one was run down. They're both now very attractive properties, and I'm very proud of that. So maybe that's the mix up at Ozzy, but Ozzy doesn't own I'm not a landlord. No, not to that extent.
All right. So again, we're happy to put these questions to the candidates so they can answer them directly. I noticed Ozzy chuckled. He's probably thinking, I wish I was a landlord. Jacine has one for Wayne. What does Wayne say about the allegations that he paid off Auntie's mortgage? He gave money to Sabrina. Is that a habit of his?
Wow.
Wayne, are you in the habit of going around just giving money, Santa Claus?
No, and certainly, this is the latest one now about Auntie. I have no idea where that comes from.
That's the first
None whatsoever. I have had no discussion,
I
no
mean, I got a mortgage
interaction.
too, you know.
It's just nonsense. Um,
Long as I've known you, you
I have
haven't paid mine off.
there has been a public disclosure about a loan that is fully secured, a short-term loan that is fully secured that I did make to Sabrina. But I didn't give money to Sabrina. I lent money to Sabrina on normal commercial terms on a very short-term loan. I'm not in the business of providing mortgages. I was simply helping a fellow Caymanian who needed to have something, some short-term facility in place. I have had no discussions with anybody else about anything similar to that. Have I had people coming along and asking me about borrowing money? Yeah, it happens all the time. I don't know any politician that doesn't have that kind of request coming to them from time to time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had fellow politicians in the past asking those sorts of questions. But no, I don't give money to people like that unless they are really in a desperate situation. Have I done it in the past? Yes, I've had Caymanian friends that, well, I'm thinking about one in particular, a very dear friend. Her husband died very suddenly. She had a number of children. She was not working at the time. And I felt, this was a long time ago, and I felt so helpless in terms of being able to do anything for her that, yes, I did resolve her mortgage situation so that she did not have to worry about that, as well as her 5 kids and what to do and going through the grief that she was going through at the time as well. I don't regret that. And I can't say that I wouldn't do it again, but I certainly probably have less resources today than I had back then. But that doesn't mean that somebody can come along and speculate about me paying off this one and that one. That's just nonsense. That is nonsense. Anyway.
All right. Yes.
Auntie's a good guy. Auntie's a
So you've not
fantastic
paid
guy,
off
and I think
Auntie's
he'll be a
mortgage.
fantastic representative for Georgetown Central. But no, I didn't pay off his mortgage.
Okay. All right. Maybe the confusion is, I will put this out there because I know this for a fact. There are contracts, Jasan, that some of the other parties are having people sign where, and I know that also one of the reasons why some people, because there's one particular individual, people say, well, I can't believe that, Ween assisted him with a job and this and that. Why didn't he join TCCP? Well, apparently the other party offered, the CINP, let's just be completely honest here, offered a very lucrative option to candidates. So they're giving them $5,000 per month. And, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm just telling you what's in their contracts. And they also get a $10,000 payment, which they can use for other things, such as their campaign funds. And then anything that's done at the national level with the party covers expenses for those. And the candidates then do their individual candidate meetings. Like they have to, do their own budgeting for that. So I don't know what people are confusing. I think the parties will all be helping each other. That's what a party is all about. You pool resources, people get.
Sandra, let's be honest. This is very little about confusion.
Yeah.
And it is everything about people being surrogates for either the opponents themselves or their surrogates are just throwing stones left, right, and center, hoping that they're going to, cause some kind of damage.
Yeah.
The reality is we should not be distracted by them. We need to focus on delivering for the people of this country. We need to recognize and accept that Caymanians continue to fall behind, even when we have, economic growth of 3.5–4% going on, which we have had since I became premier back in 2021. And Caymanians are still falling behind. Inflation has been increasing, and we feel like we're falling behind faster and faster. We feel like we're losing our country. We're a minority in our own country. We feel like there's so much going on, so much development, so many changes. We can't even recognize our own country sometimes. And all we're saying is, let's put Caymanians first in this. Let's make sure that their interests are being addressed. Let's make sure that if all of this is going on, at least Caymanians are at the front getting the benefits of it. But let's also plan this thing, because we realize and recognize that we have had lots of stuff going on, which has led to many of these problems because we refuse to plan.
Yes.
Because we let special interests dictate what happens in the country, rather than the country sitting back and saying, what do we need to do in order to get the best results 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I had an initiative, which was, and I talked about it in Parliament several times. It was, we were moving forward with it. It was called the National Dialogue on what Cayman do we want? What do we want? What does the people of the country want 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? We did this Vision 2008 exercise, which was, it was better than nothing at the time, and it gave a lot of indications as to what people's thoughts were. But it wasn't done as well as it could have been, and certainly it had no political buy-in. Why? Because it's easier just to let the dictates of the special interests on the outside push things in whatever direction they want, whatever direction they think is best for them financially, rather than understanding in a holistic way what is better for the country and how we improve the outcomes for Caymanians and for those residents in the country. How do we achieve things that are for our own collective best interest, not just this stop and start, pushing in different directions.
Absolutely.
And then we end up with this 5-horned problem that we're struggling with, traffic and lower quality of life and all the issues that Nolly talked about and all the issues that we see in our own constituencies. We've got to have a plan as to how to address these issues, and we've got to mitigate the impacts of those of the past and ensure that we develop plans that suit the best outcomes for the people of this country. And that's why it has been frustrating to me. We've done so much good work, but nothing gets implemented at times because of special interests. And as I said, we have to be brave. We have to be focused, not distracted. I'm not going to get distracted by people throwing these stones out about, you have a conflict of interest here and you did this and you did that. I can tell you none of it is true, but here we go. It's an attempt to try to distract us. We need to be focused and tell the people of this country what we are going to be doing and engaging with them. Just like we have this youth council in our party, which is going to be an intrinsic part of the decision-making process in any government that we are a part of. We are going to have the voices of the youth of this country around the table because they have more invested in the future than we do.
That's right.
So we need to have, these are our children, these are our families, and these are our Caymanian children, brothers, sisters, whatever, and we need to make sure that we're delivering for them a country that they want, that they find enjoyable, not something that is dictated by some special interest developer who says, don't worry, I'll do this well, and by the way, give me a big concession so I can guarantee my profit. No.
All right. Let's pause there. And I want to say that obviously we have decided to hold off on the video until Friday's segment because we're on a roll with over 600 people here today on the live streams. I did not want to interrupt that. We do have a caller who's impatiently waiting. Caller, question or comment this morning?
Morning.
Morning.
What I don't want for Cayman is a situation in which everything is micromanaged by government.
That's true.
Because in a situation like that, what actually happens is that the special interests are the ones who buy the politicians and who dictates what everything that actually happens from that point on. And as a result of that, the people actually gets crushed in the process. And I hope we can resist the urge to micromanage everything. I'm going to give you an example of how I think one of the ways in which I think we made a mistake. Ozzy, you talked about amending the builder's bill to disallow individuals from building their own homes. Now, I personally believe that has done great damage to the country. And the reason for that is that what has happened now is that if you want anything built, you have to go to people that is going to charge you astronomical rates, and you have no option. The reason this is important is because I wouldn't have a place of my own if I didn't have the ability to build it myself and be legally allowed to build it myself. Okay? And I'm not suggesting that just because someone can build something themselves instead of having to hire a contractor, that somehow that's a bad thing. You still have to comply with all of the planning regulations and so forth. You know, dishonest people are going to do dishonest things regardless of what the law says.
That's right.
But
you do have to have, Denny, you would have to admit that you do have to have some consumer protection mechanisms in place to also monitor what people are doing. Because if you have zero monitoring, and I agree with you, I don't like government overstep as both a citizen and a business owner, but there are certain times when there are problems that are obvious in certain areas that require a fix, a solution.
I think it's much simpler than what people are trying to suggest that it should be done. And let me say specifically how I think you could make a significant dent in it. Let's just say you had a mechanism, a legal mechanism, where if you have infractions of law that take place, say that with the planning department, that information gets filtered into a database that keeps track of those infractions, right? So that what happens is over time you build a history. You can see that over the course of 10 years, this person only made one mistake, and they explain that it was a mistake. And you can see compared to another contractor, they made, let's say, 10 mistakes in 10 years with 4 explanations about what happened. And then government, who is assisting people in getting homes, can utilize that information to say, well, we might not want to use this particular person because it seems that what's actually happening there is that this person is doing something untoward. If you get into something where you're going to say you're going to stop someone from working, that's not as simple as it sounds, because let's say the person has 3 contracts going, and now you just shut them down and they can't work. Now, you understand how that could get very legal. You know what I'm saying? If I go to a store and you give me bad service right now, you think I'm going back to that store tomorrow? Really?
Well, it's really not about you going back to that store. When it comes to contractors, and I can tell you this from the evidence that has been brought to me, is you will find that people end up using that contractor who simply don't know of the record that they have, the deplorable record. So if there's no mechanism in place, the only mechanism that currently exists is for you to take that person to court. And most people don't have the resources to do that.
I know, but I just outlined that we need to have a database that records these infractions, that it can be queried so that people can make intelligent decisions about who they should hire. You see, if you go the other way, that becomes far more legalistic and expensive to implement. Because let's say you have three people who are their homes are being built by this particular contractor right now, and the contractor gets in a conflict with one new customer. Let's just say it's a valid conflict. Will they be disallowed from building your home even though they're not doing anything wrong to you? What I'm trying to say is that is too blunt an approach to it. I think if infractions were registered, that people could query the database and could say, well, okay, this person did such and such. This was the claim. They didn't build my wall. My door was leaking. My swimming pool cracked. Whatever the case was, they could make a decision for themselves about whether they want to do business with the customer, with the contractor, as opposed to setting up a system that says, well, somehow planning is going to stop the contractor from operating. You follow what I'm saying?
Denny, I hear you, and it's a very interesting perspective because I know you know a lot about this area, and I didn't, for the sake of record, I didn't say the contractor's law was perfect, but it is there, and it is there. It was there for a reason, to try and keep the standards up. But unfortunately,
I'm not disputing.
No, but just let me finish my point, bro. That you can understand where I'm coming from. Having a record, a database of these, as it were, not the best people to deal with is okay. But what you're gonna find is that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I agree with it. But the problem is, it's not gonna prevent people from still ending up using those people. The other day when I was putting up my sign by the Northwood entrance, a young lady came there, she saw me, she pulled in, and she said, Mr. Jose, I have a very serious situation. I said, what's that, my dear? She said, I have paid out all of my money to this contractor, and they have basically walked away and not finished my job. Now, what recourse does she have? Does she have money to go to a lawyer? No. She's trying to get a home, her first home. And this is where they have to be sanctioned at the front, I believe. They have to be weeded out. And the faulty ones are not allowed to conduct business, at least not at the level. I can't sit here and come up with the sanctions and what should be done, but there should be points or whatever against them. And they should then, as Sandy said earlier, the level of ability that they have to build may be reduced, build at a smaller scale or whatever. But we have to deal with it from two directions, and that your database is correct. People should be able to access that and say, well, I don't want to do business with them. But some people are not going to do that. Some people are just going to go, oh, he did a good, somebody's going to say, check so-and-so, he did my house or whatever, and they're going to go and they're going to hire him. And the cycle is going to repeat. So I believe that upfront, we need to prevent a lot of these people from committing some of the grave injustices.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, Denny, but if you are a contractor that engages in that type of behavior, and there are no repercussions for your behavior, what kind of system are we talking about here? A contractor should not be going around building homes of substandard quality and don't have to be held accountable for that.
I know, I agree with that, but what we're talking about here are private contracts, right? And the way you deal with any private contract is you'd be able to take it to court. Now,
but Denny,
sorry, Danny, I can't agree with you on that.
Hold on a second.
Finish my thought, okay? Because I'm not disagreeing with what Ozzy is saying about trying to weed them out on the front end. I agree with that. But let's just say you do your best to weed them out on the front end, and some slip through. This is where the database that I'm talking about becomes important. It's not. I'm not saying that this database is the only thing you need to do, but the question is this: is if the way we have our legal systems structured is that nobody could actually get a remedy for a problem, is that really an appropriate legal structure? No, it isn't, because it's not solving the problem. So in other words, we need to think about how can people in the country be able to, in a legal environment, because building and so forth, the laws are complex. They're not just something that any average person can just sort out on their own. You need someone who is impartial, who's legally trained, to be able to consider all of the aspects that are relevant. And this is why I'm saying that what we need to do is we need to adjust the system so that it works. I'm not suggesting the database is the only way forward. I'm not saying that what Ozzy is saying about the front end is irrelevant. I think it's necessary. But what I find is that the average person wants government to just have something that just solves all of their problems and they don't have to do anything. And you could go down that road if you want, but what it actually means is that you're setting up a system where government micromanages and controls everything. At some point along the line, we need to have the system work in such a way that if I hire you to build a place for me, you take my money and you don't give me what I paid you for, then I can go to the court and the court can look at it and the court can hold the contractor responsible.
All right, leave us
why
there.
Can't that work?
All right, thank you very much. I think in when you look at systems elsewhere in the world, right? It's not a question of why can't that work. That's what we have now. And what I'm telling you is what we have now is not sufficient. It does not work well for the average person. So there are a number of things. I have looked at this area very, very carefully. And I think there's a number of things when it comes to having a type of redress that should not sometimes even involve the court, or to make it easier. There are things that are done that are inexpensive, expeditious, less intimidating than having to go to court and having to hire a lawyer, because if it's a claim for anything over $20,000, it's then a grand court matter, and that requires all sorts of resources. So how about a consumer affairs commission, a consumer tribunal? Most places in the world, even if you purchase things like a vehicle, you purchase a good, you've got a specific period of time that a guarantee comes with that option. Here we have left it up to, it's just a contract between the two individuals. What I'm saying is we have no real consumer protection legislation in place in this country. And maybe it's high time that we looked at our legislation and make sure it aligns more closely with international standards, which it doesn't. And so I hear Denny, and I agree in principle about not needing government overstepping in areas in which they do, but there are other things that government has to get involved in and introduce robust regulatory frameworks and legislation in order to promote market confidence and consumer protection. And we just haven't had that.
Sandy, I know we don't have a lot of time left, and I want to get back to where we started, and that is making life better for people. Mm-hmm. This is a very interesting conversation that we've had this morning. A lot of things have been exposed as to what is going on and what needs fixing. Mm-hmm. But all of this is going to take a government that you can trust to do the right thing. The government that's going to have the backbone to stand up for Caymanians. Mm-hmm. We have to get off this runaway train that is sweeping everybody along and leaving our people behind. Mm-hmm. You're going to need a government that's going to have the funding, because a lot of what we are talking about is going to require additional resources and regulations. That takes funding. Now, I keep mentioning this, and I don't want to get into a whole nother area, but I just want to mention it quickly. The way we budget in this country, we need to stop. This thing about a balanced budget needs to be put to bed. We need to go to surplus budgeting. We need to create incentives for efficiencies and government to make decent change to put into a wealth fund, whether you call it a sovereign wealth fund or whatever name you want to give it. We need to create funding in this country that can go to the government entities such as the CIDB. We started off talking about the GGHAM. That is the government assisted mortgage scheme. That takes money. The best place, we already have the entity set up, the Cayman Islands Development Bank, CIDB. I know we throw out acronyms sometime and the public may not, some of them may not quite understand. So I break it down simple there. But that entity is set up for us to be able to offer funding to need it to the right people, properly screened at decent rates, not commercial bank rates. We need that operation being funded properly, and we need our people being able to afford to, first of all, homes are critical, and small businesses, which is the engine of the economy. If we lose our small businesses, and this is where our middle class Caymanians come in, we got to incentivize them to move in that direction, to be able to afford things in their country and feel that they are a part of the breathing mechanism, the Cayman dream that we all would like to see. We have to slow down the amount of people that we're bringing into the country to fuel an economy that is out of control, which is, to me, is a false economy. Because when you're supposedly so successful, then your people shouldn't be screaming and hurting. So we have got it a little bit backwards. I think if you look at Singapore, for instance, you'll see that they have the opposite model. They have their people running the country, all in good jobs, all in good accommodations, and their permits are then there to service the economy. We have got it the other way around. Our permits are now in, they're taking over, they're running things, and Caymanians are playing catch up. And we are hurting, and we are hurting, and this is why I'm running, because I've seen this, and I feel that the TCCP, from my perspective, and yes, I'm a little biased, because I feel that we have the people at the table, the ability to put things in action that understand. People have been in business, been in finance, been in government, are able to get the job done. I think we have one last chance to get this right. 4 more years from now, it's going to be horse through the gate, forget it, sit back, get ready to live on a reservation and let everybody else run Cayman. Our forefathers would be turning and twisting and fuming in their graves. They went to sea, they left the wives home and the families, they plied the 7 seas, they worked hard, they pumped the money back in here for Cayman to develop. It was to be developed for us Caymanians, older and newer Caymanians, to benefit, not for everybody else to come here and benefit and run off with the money and go on the world tours. No, no, no. We are here and we must take control of these islands and embrace those who want to be a part of us. But certainly those who come simply to take advantage and to disrespect us in some cases now, those people need to be filtered out of here. And we need to make sure that we have proper succession planning and get our people through the white collar jobs, get our people into the blue collar trades and let them be making good money. It's going to take, I don't think it can be done in 4 years. I really don't. And I don't think that I want to be here longer than that, to be honest. I want new blood coming into government, but I want to make sure that I start this process, this reform, this transition of the Cayman Islands from being a service to others to Caymanians being the ones who are being serviced. That's the Cayman Islands. That's the Cayman dream.
All right, let me just read a few more comments here. One person said, how many of those living in deplorable conditions are Caymanian? If not, if a lot of them are not Caymanian, then why are they here?
That's the point right there.
Yep. Oh, we did this one already. Let me just see here now. This one says, hi, Sandy. I wanted to reach out regarding a concern affecting individuals in the Cayman Islands who serve their time and are trying to move forward with their lives. Specifically, come across cases where former offenders are being denied life insurance, which is often required for purchasing a property or home. Sorry. And then it says, additionally, some are facing challenges in securing life insurance for their children as they're unable to be listed as beneficiaries due to their past offenses. Given the importance of financial stability and reintegration, I'd like to understand what can be done to address this issue. Are there any policies or legislative efforts in place or being considered to support rehabilitated individuals and accessing these individual services? I did not know until this message that this was even an issue. So maybe it's something that or MPs also did not know about. Wayne, have you heard of this before?
No, I'm not aware of that particular issue at all.
Wow.
And I'm not sure, it doesn't quite make sense for me.
Yeah.
As to why that would be the case. Particularly if it relates to children, the children of the individual. It could be some particular company with a particular policy, but I can't see as an across the board, sort of concept why that should be a problem. But I'm happy to have a look at it and speak to some folks and see whether that is an issue and whether we can get it resolved.
Yeah.
Obviously, perhaps it's something. Maybe it's just some sort of misunderstanding. But anyway, I'm happy to if the if the commenter wants to contact me directly, I'm happy to have a look at it for them.
All right.
With them. But I just want to go back to this question that Ozzy was mentioning about the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I just as another example of some of the great work that we had been doing, I brought forward a proposal to do a sovereign wealth fund for Cayman. We had discussions with key stakeholders in financial services, monetary authority. I think I even spoke to the then leader of the opposition about it. Key civil servants, and a paper was prepared, taken to caucus, to set up a Cayman Islands sovereign wealth fund. And of course, what would that achieve? It would allow us to, instead of seeking to spend everything that we earn, it would allow us as a government to save, to invest, and to have something that in the future would be able to provide additional income to fund areas, for example, education, housing, you name it, all of these things that we need assistance with, that we're challenged to try to find money on for every financial period. We could invest, we could build this sovereign wealth fund so that it provides income and it provides capital down the road, that we could address so many of the significant problems that we have. It's the same concept as individuals saving to be in a position down the road to improve their lives. But you know what? Guess who didn't want it and rejected it? Well, current premier, the same two members who were on the opposition side trying to bring the last motion, no confidence. They even mentioned it at the time, deriding it. Can you imagine somebody who says, I am a responsible member, a representative of the people in this country, and I think this is nonsense. I think it's wrong for us to save as a country. I think it's wrong for us to develop a capital investment that generates income that helps our people down the road. Why? Because they want to be able to spend every single thing they can get their hands on, rather than planning and thinking down the road, right? This is how short-sighted our politicians are. And enough is enough. We need to change this approach. If you want a better government, you have to vote for a better government. The people in this country have to vote for a better government. Vote for people who can form the majority of the government, at the very least, to be able to put things like this in place. There was an article in the Compass recently with a very well-respected certified financial analyst who I think a year before that, or perhaps a little bit more, had come out with this view that he wasn't in favor of a sovereign wealth fund for Cayman. Guess what? His article, his more recent article, a year later, said, I was wrong. I think this would be a fantastic thing for Cayman. And it has loads of benefits. So here we are. We're trying to be progressive and to put things in place that help Cayman improve our future. And we have these old politicians who have been around for decades who want to control every single thing. One of the arguments was, oh, we're not going to have, we don't want people outside of government controlling government money and saying how it should be spent. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Oh boy.
You cannot trust these people to spend your money in your best interest. Look at what's happened. You know, we've got these vanity projects that we've borrowed money now to go and try to complete to be able to meet our requirements under the
FFR.
You know, the FFR. So that we have some cash reserves. It's ridiculous. Let's change this, people. Let's get people in there who are courageous, who are focused on the best interests of the people of Cayman, not just today, but for tomorrow.
Amen.
All right. Somebody asked me to give Ozzy a kaboom earlier, and we'll do a dual kaboom there. For Mr. Wayne Panton as well. Let's just speed through a few more as we start to wrap up. This one says, good morning, Sandy. Please keep me anonymous and my number private. Can we talk about the favoritism in planning with Jay, the minister's daughter, working the front counter and is always giving customers wrong information? She's been working there for a year now and still can't seem to get it right. She's always on the phone watching movies when we walk up to the counter and always overcharging customers. We have been complaining about her for a while now and nothing is being done about it because Haroon is afraid of Jay. This is very unfair, and so many Caymanians would do a better job than his daughter. Well, wow, that's news to me. Didn't know anything about that, but there you have it. I guess someone who deals with planning. This next one says, a question I would like each candidate, is what solutions would they recommend to help safeguard everyone's current pensions as they are sustaining heavy losses due to the continuous decline with the stock market, with the chaos happening as a result of the new American administration. They're predicted to be heading into recession by the end of this year, and we already sustained heavy losses to pension growth as a result of COVID. And now with the stock market crashing again, we're having heavy losses. This may impact a lot of people who may be getting ready to retire next year or in the next couple of years with their pension portfolio way lower than they ever imagined. So many questions. So my question is, what will they, as I think that meant to say, so my question is, what will they as a candidate recommend to ensure the government will have possibly the entire population to support as a result of these losses from COVID and now the crash of the market? Because when I look at my personal investments, I needed up pulling everything.
That's a good question. We know for ages we've had, well, first of all, pensions relatively new in these islands in the 90s, right? And the pension fund is severely underfunded. And this goes back to the sovereign wealth fund, because if we take a serious look at what needs to be funded to make life better, you're talking about home ownership, you're talking about businesses, and you're talking about pension and insurance for people. That pension fund, first of all, I think we need pension reform, but pensions need to be properly funded, because you cannot go from what you're earning now to the meager amount that's stipulated under the monthly pension after retirement. I think it's 12 or 1500, I think it is a month. You got people earning that on, from assistance from government. So we have to look careful at that. We also have to safeguard our pension fund investments. We can't be investing all over the place. We have to be very conservative with investment in bonds and stuff that do not crush like the stock market does, are doing at the moment. We got to be very, very careful as people look forward to and they should, after a life of working hard, they must be able to retire with dignity, with proper health insurance, with proper pensions. And this is a huge area for us. It's big. It's can't be answered now, but just to know that we have identified the problem and we will be addressing it. But I think that the Sovereign Wealth Fund, or whatever name we want to give it, these are the kind of things that it can be assisting us with, as we need to fund a lot of this stuff. It's not, we simply don't have the amount of money going into the fund from withdrawals from salaries that's going to bring it up to where it needs to be to make it decent for people to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra,
All right.
let me tell you,
Yes,
let me tell you
sir.
something. Let me give you some quick insight on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
National pension reform was an issue that was on my agenda, and it was promoted within the government. It was shared by some, and it was an issue that we all recognize, right? Oz mentioned the payments. You know, these payments that are coming out of basically it's about $1,400 a month now, which is the maximum you can withdraw under the National Pension Fund scheme. They don't do much to help. I mean, they'll cover one bill probably, and you know, a pension is supposed to be something that is some kind of income replacement. We've recognized for a long time that the National Pension scheme under the National Pension Act is something which is not adequate for the country. We need national pension reform. We have had, since COVID, we have had various changes that were promoted and pushed through to allow people to take money out of their pension fund. Many pension funds have been significantly eroded. So we are going to be facing a problem down the road where people are going to be retiring with little to no resources. And it is going to be a challenge for us to find ways to assist them with employment opportunities. Is also going to be a challenge for the government under the financial assistance department now to be able to assist more. But this is all the more reason why we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to make sure that we have the resources down the road to help our people. We need to fix the problem with the national pension scheme. We need to do the reforms around that. But we need to do things, as I said, you know, with the things like the Sovereign Wealth Fund, where we are investing as a country and we're realizing the benefits of, for example, over the last 2 years, we've had the NASDAQ and the S&P have increased 20%, over 20% per year. If we had the benefit of that in a Sovereign Wealth Fund that Cayman had set up, even if we were just putting $5 million at a time into it, we could be growing this, you know, that amount of capital that gives us so many options. But what do we have? Politicians who refuse to allow somebody else to control an investment value for Cayman. And it's because they all want to be engaged in political interference. That's the bottom line. And because of that kind of attitude, Mr. Bush, the current premier, and a few others, thanks to them, we're 2 years behind now in establishing what could be the beginning of a very strong sovereign wealth fund for the Cayman Islands that would benefit, not, you know, probably benefit us less, but our children for sure. And it would provide a very strong background to fiscal sustainability for the country, fiscal strength to give us all options. Well, I lost my train of thought.
On top of that, large borrowings that is a burden for years to come.
Yeah. I mean, you know, basically, you know, the progressives put in place in 2020, I think it was, a facility which was, because interest rates were low at the time and we hadn't been hit by remember the inflation that really collared us was after Russia invaded Ukraine in about February 2022. The rates of interest were quite low at that time, so it was relatively cheap money. As a government, we we did draw that down. We were actually making money on that. We were earning more money than it was costing us. But we then had people who were insisting that we had to spend this money on all kinds of things that I was encouraging fiscal restraint on. I was encouraging a budget which gave us met our needs, but gave us the flexibility to ensure that our future, our fiscal future, would be stronger. But no, we had people who insisted we had to build these massive schools. We had people who insisted that capital projects were the way to reach the people. No, I think capital projects are opportunities sometimes to favor your friends and to put a plaque on a building with your name on it. But the real needs of the people at a time when inflation is crushing them is to find ways to help utilize government resources to help support them, get them past that period. It doesn't last forever.
Yes, and this is one of the reasons why
concrete in the ground is not going to feed our people.
Yes, and $1 million parks, not going to feed in the middle of
multi-million dollar parks.
Yeah, multi-million dollar.
Which was garnered off the back of threats of quitting the government. Isn't that ironic, right? I'm going to quit the government if you don't give me the $3 million for this. I'm going to quit the government if you don't give me $2 million for that. And then I'm going to quit the government if you don't make me deputy premier. And then you turn around and tell the country that people who stood up, patriots who stood up for right and stepped away, you're going to tell the country they're quitters? No. You got what you wanted out of self-interest by threatening to quit. The people who stood up as patriots, they stood up on their own principles and values because they thought it didn't meet their principles and values. They wanted better governance and they wanted more for the people of this country, not for themselves. They gave up jobs, they gave up salary in order to stand up for principle, not making threats of quitting in order to get ahead.
Amen.
Well, I'll read this comment. This person says,
I know you're going to read this.
The no confidence vote against Ween made him grow some good Godzilla-sized cojones. He is so much more pleasing to the ear now. Wow. Yes, sir. Now what they say, not every disappointment. How does that saying going? Not every misfortune is a disappointment. No, it's the other way around. Not every disappointment is a misfortune, something. But in other words,
the latter.
That's right.
Yeah, we needed Ween. We needed a good version of Wayne Panton for sure.
I need some breakfast, so you better cut this.
Yeah. John LaRue says, does Ozzy still have his cow card at the gas station?
What is a cow card?
Oh my goodness. John also went on to say, I'm trying to see somewhere he said that. He says that he's going to be voting for the TCCP because he believes that you guys are going to get the job done. So very, very interesting. We saw Mr. Amelia in the comment section this morning. Good morning to Mr. Amelia. So lots of things to talk about. This is where he said, Mr. Panton, I'm going to vote for your party as I respect you and Andre. What should the public be scared of with respect to the PPM? I think if you've been listening, John, he's told you a number of things that you need to be wary of with other people who through their behavior has demonstrated lack of fiscal constraint, giving away concessions like it was yesterday, and being allegedly in the back pocket of special interest groups. Ms. Martha says, please give Mr. Panton a kaboom. Denny says, Ozzy better still have it. He might need it. Hill Construction says, your government squashed the builder's bill. Did your government do that, Ween?
No.
Okay.
No. As far as I recall, I don't remember whether it was a Builders Act or the Contractors Act, something like that. We had a lot of special interest back in, this was the period between 2013 and 2017 when I was a minister. It was being dealt with at that time. There was a huge amount of public consultation by the then minister, who was Mr. Kurt Tibbetts. it was all well intended. The Contractors Association supported it, as far as I recall.
Yes, they did.
But there was, Ozzy was a minister at that time as well, he'll recall. And there was a huge amount of pushback eventually in relation to it. And I know that it had, they delayed the commencement of it several times. And then I think I believe they eventually abandoned it. But I'm not 100% sure. But I certainly do not have. But I certainly do not have any clarity on what is, specific clarity on what happened with it. I just know that it wasn't dealt with by my government.
All right, Wayne Panton, why doesn't all of your MPs collectively stop the BRAC school? Is there a way to stop the BRAC school?
Well, there's always a way to stop anything, really. But I think we need to have a very careful look at that. When that was initially presented, it was about a $27 million proposal, inclusive of, I think, about a 15% contingency. That was something that I was Minister for Finance at the time, as well as Premier, and I had a very hard look at it. Maybe that was just prior to me becoming Minister of Finance. But anyway, I had a very hard look at it, and I wanted to support the school, but I wanted to make sure that it did not create a huge financial burden for us. Within about 3 or 4 months, that proposal then turned into a $44 million cost. And the explanation, when I asked the minister at the time, Minister of Education at the time, why this had gone up so drastically, almost doubling in cost, the answer was, oh, well, Premier, all I did was change the walkway from the outside to the inside of the building. And my response to that was, well, how on earth could that possibly drive up the cost that much? I never got a satisfactory answer to that. Since then, of course, we know that it has gone up in costs again, and it seems like it's somewhere in the region of between $60 and $70 million. I don't know exactly, but this is one of those things that we really have to have a very hard look at to see where it is and to what extent we should make any changes to it, or not support it at all. I think it is a real concern for a lot of people, and it's something that will require some careful attention. And I don't want to sort of predetermine what approach should be taken or would be taken without having a very strong look at it. But I will say that this was one of the issues that, and it was a major issue that created a lot of problems within the government. And the then minister went to great lengths, to try to push it through and make representations, for example, that it would be finished by December 2025. Well, if anybody thinks it's going to be finished by December 2025, I have some waterfront property in Ohio that you could buy. It defied logic, it defied reason rather. But she had orchestrated people around her to promote that concept and insist that it was reality, when everybody else looking at it could determine that's not going to be reality. And clearly today we can see that that's not the case. And it's going to cost even more now than we were contemplating back then. And taking the view back then that it was a very risky fiscal position for the country. Since then, we've had an additional $150 million in borrowing to supplement an already significantly increased budget. That was all given the thumbs up by the opposition at the time. You'll recall, Sandra, that I had the misfortune of breaking 3 ribs just before. And believe me, some people speculated that I had done that deliberately. I don't know anybody who would want to have 3 broken ribs, just not to have
It'd have to be crazy, I suppose.
But it was frustrating for me being at home and not being able to to move and be in excruciating pain.
Yeah.
And listening to this stuff, listening to the opposition, giving it all thumbs up. And then months, in the coming months, making, shaking their head and their fingers and going, oh, we're concerned about this borrowing. We're concerned about the spending in the country. Well, if you were that concerned about it, then, why did you not object to it at the time? Well, we all know the reason, because they were working together from then. It has been clear that has continued all through the past year. And here we are today with the reality that half of the government is now with the opposition, including that particular minister. So,
all right. Yes. All right, folks. Well, it's 10:04. We want to thank Mr. Wayne Panton, candidate for Newlands, and Mr. Osborne Bodden, candidate for Bodden Town West. I should know that because that's my constituency. So I need to remember. Listen, I just know where to show up for the polling station, and I just make sure I'm going to be voting right. Educate yourselves, folks. Listen to your candidates. It's very, very important that we get it right this time around without fear of contradiction. So I enjoy the candidates who are coming on. You guys are asking tough questions. Thank you so much to our listeners. You're putting it together. We have more questions that you sent in that we will definitely be putting to them. They're not getting these questions in advance, I can tell you. They're seeing them as we're seeing them, and they're answering them as straightforwardly as possible. We have dispelled some misinformation here this morning, some myths. We got to focus on the right issues, and the people who are out there lying on candidates, even lying on me, to try to persuade you to do the wrong thing. You got to think about why that is. So stay focused on the issues, because that is what is going to move the needle forward for this country in a positive direction. So I want to thank these two for coming onto the program. As always, they're willing to answer your questions. Thanks for all the callers as well. We appreciate your contributions. And Mr. Panton and Ozzy, please have yourselves a wonderful day.
Before we go, Sandy, and Charmaine want to say bye as well. I want to thank you, as usual, for being a gracious host. I want to thank the viewers and listeners, and to say that, we are not here for ourselves. Neither one of us, and I think most of our party, we are not here for ourselves. We are here for the Cayman Islands. I attended the Youth Parliament. Sadly, I couldn't stay for the whole session. But Youth Parliament, which I was very, very proud to have been one of the persons that during our administration in 05 to 09, along with Alfonso Wright, to be the persons who spearheaded the Youth Parliament. And it's 18 years since. The youth that come there and talk and learn, it's amazing. I think we need to do a better job listening. The reports are there from the Youth Assembly as well as the Youth Parliament. A lot of issues that these youth see and address. And the passion that was exhibited there on Monday.
Yes.
And the main one that I caught was the cost of living, which I really wanted to catch. And to hear these young people talk about this stuff, the issues, because they know what high prices are. They know what cost to live. They hear their parents complain and they feel it. So they one of the things that they strongly recommend we have to listen to is a consumer protection office or commission. They really push that, and that's something we'll have to take on board as we move forward. But to hear their pleas for a better Cayman and to hear their voices and not act would be, to me, the most cruel thing, because they have the future ahead. We have the past behind us and a small future, if God grants us that. We have to work hard. We have to go there, and we have to make serious, hard decisions. We have to be fair. We have to root out nepotism. We have to root out corruption. We have to stand up for integrity. We have to stand up for good governance. We have to stand up because we are the Caymanian Community Party. We are the caring, compassionate people. That's the other acronym, Sandra. Remember that. So we must work hard. We must. It's gonna be taxing on us. It's gonna be a lot of midnight oil and a lot of hard things, and bring, we have a lot of resources around us. We don't have to go and spend a ton on consultants. We have smart people in this community that can help us to fix these islands for our people. These 3 Cayman Islands are a gem. Everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to be a part of it. Our people need to enjoy this place. We shouldn't have young people wanting to leave Cayman. We shouldn't have young people not wanting to come back to Cayman. This is our problem. This is what we're fighting for. So here I am. I'm putting my hat in the ring. I'm applying for the job, BT West, April 30th. Make sure you do the right thing. Just want to say, finally, tomorrow night, I'm in Wilkie Drive. Come out and hear and meet and greet, and let's have a discussion. It's not a top-down type of environment. It's an interactive environment. We enjoy these area sessions. We'll have a few big meetings, of course. We'll have chamber debate. We'll have all that. But we're busy. We're extremely busy. We're not sleeping long at nights. We are working hard. And Saturday morning, the last thing I'll finish with is we're having a cleanup in Beach Bay. The dumping in that area, it's an area I exercise in when I do exercise all the time. And it is terrible, the amount of dumping. This attitude towards littering and stuff in Cayman has just gotten it. I think the only one that more frustrated with it than me is Heather, because we all know that she's Miss Beautification. But I hate it, and we need to get back that, and we need to put some penalties on people and stop the one-ton dumping. But come out on Saturday morning, 6:30 with us. Join us as we clean up the main road and a few side roads. We're going to have some refreshments, and again, another chance for us to talk and meet and greet and build this momentum, take the TCCP all the way to victory on April 30th. Thank you, and God bless.
All right. Thanks very, very much, Mr. Wayne Panton.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Oz did a good job there, and I'm not going to take too much time, but yeah, integrity, leadership, commitment, understanding of the issues, dedication to providing solutions for the national issues as well as our constituent issues. This is what we are all committed to as a party, the Caymanian Community Party. We want to provide those solutions. And if Cayman wants a government that is committed to our people, that is committed to the future of our youth, and committed to having a successful country down the road that they have a voice in. Remember, we are talking about giving our young people the prominence to have input on decisions. We also want to have a national dialogue with the people of the country. Not a dialogue that's controlled by politicians, a dialogue that is controlled by members of society who are having discussions with other members of society, that we can have a very clear policy basis for how we make decisions going on down the road, so that we can meet the aspirations, meet the expectations, and deliver the kind of quality of life, deliver the kind of infrastructure, deliver the kind of country that we want, we all want, that we will be proud of for our own children. And Sandra, this doesn't happen by accident. You have to go out and you have to identify the members that you want to vote for who can achieve this. My colleagues and I are committed to doing this. As Ozzy said, we don't have to be back here. I've probably gone against the wishes of certain people to do it again. But I feel that we need to have people who are committed to doing this for the right reasons, not for their own self-aggrandizement, not for their own status, not for a job, but to serve, to be servant leaders. And that is what we are committed to. The Caymanian Community Party, if you want a strong government who's going to help provide solutions, you need, as Caymanians, to vote for that government. So thank you very much, Sandra. Really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to say two things. Thank you. I want to say happy birthday to our nephew Castle, a wonderful little gentleman, Castle da Costa. He is an incredible little cook, and he is fantastic, and he's just such a wonderful gentleman. So happy birthday, Castle. And also my little nephew, tomorrow is his birthday. Happy birthday, Cyrus. Love you all. Love you, Castle. Love you, Cyrus. Have a great day. Tomorrow evening, we are going to be having a community conversation in Newlands at 32 Moonbeam Drive. Just as you enter Moonbeam off Hearst Road, you can't miss it. You'll see it. Please come and join us for the conversation, for refreshments, discussion about pressing issues and solutions, both nationally and from a community perspective. But as I said, it's a community conversation where we all can engage in and have productive discussion. So looking forward to that. Thank you all very much. God bless everybody. God bless our wonderful Cayman Islands.
All right. So don't forget, Ozzy's having his meet and greet on Thursday evening as well at number 60 Wilty Drive, 7 p.m. Wayne Panton is having his community conversation Thursday evening, 7 p.m. at number 32 Moonbeam Drive. And also Ms. Catherine Ebanks Wiltz will be having her event on March the 15th. Bankers Road Park, which is off of Birch Tree Hill, from 6 until 9 p.m. She's going to be having a road meeting. So we're doing lots of announcements, folks, to keep you all abreast of who is where and what's going on. This weekend in the district of West Bay, Mr. Rolston Anglin is going to be having his big rally. So here's some details on that.
Hello, this is Rolston Anglin, inviting you to my campaign launch rally on Saturday, March 15th at 6:30 p.m. at the Cayman Turtle Center's parking lot. Come out and join me for an evening of testimonials, plans for our future, light refreshment, and local entertainment. Remember, on April 30th, vote number 1, Rolston Raleigh Anglin for West Bay North.
Mr. Alric Lindsay has a meeting coming up tomorrow evening as well. Here are the details on that one.
Hey everyone, this is Alric Lindsay, your candidate for Georgetown South. Join me for a meeting on Thursday, March 13th, starting at 7 p.m. at the South Sound Community Center. Let's talk about planned developments in the South Sound Basin, crime, traffic, and other matters. See you there.
Okay, and a big shout out again to our youth parliamentarians doing such a fantastic job. Here's another snippet. We're going to be sharing some of these, and we actually have an interview scheduled with them, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that as well.
Mr. Speaker, how can we be our neighbors' keepers, but we don't even know if they're jeepers creepers? The opposition must join us as defenders and peacekeepers, our people's leaders and not vote seekers. Mr. Speaker, as our people's representatives, are we not tired of seeing these protests? Have we gone deaf to the cries of our Caymanian people? Have we gone blind to their tears? Do we not feel the pain of their suffering? We must not leave this honorable house without having done something, because how honorable would we actually be? This motion is a response to a public outcry, and we are doing exactly what we were put here to do. I propose a tiered sex offender registry, enhanced victim protection measures, and offender rehabilitation. Mr. Speaker, who can stand and say enough is being done? Before the opposition stands to discredit this motion, I urge them to put politics aside, listen to the proposal, and join us, the government, as we take a pivotal step towards a safer Cayman Islands.
All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7:30, bright and early. Oh, Strong Will, that's your niece. Congrats. Well done. Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.